Today's model is called the Leadership Styles Continuum. What's interesting about leadership studies, if you look at the original work that was done going back to as early as the 1950s and 60s, if you look at the original research and the original thinking around leadership, it was fairly monolithic. It was this kind of notion that there was one right way to lead people, and the good leaders had these sort of predefined qualities or attributes that you had to acquire. But subsequent research, particularly in the 1990s and the early 2000s, suggested actually that didn't fully reflect reality, and that really good leadership, if it's about anything, it's about flexibility and the idea that there isn't a single right way to lead people, there isn't a single correct style of leadership, but rather there are a range of different leadership approaches or behaviors that you need to be able to acquire. And the real skill is recognizing that you need to vary your leadership behaviors and approaches according to the changing circumstances or the changing conditions that you encounter, and according to the changing needs of your team or your followers. And this is where the Leadership Styles Continuum model comes in. And as you can see, there are a range of different leadership styles arranged on this continuum or scale. And at one end of the scale, you have those leadership approaches which are more task-oriented or task-centered. And at the other end of the scale, you have those leadership behaviors or approaches that are more people-centered. So if we can start from the left-hand side, probably the most task-centered activity or style is what we would call the directive or prescriptive approach to leadership. Now this is an approach to leadership where the leader has a very clear understanding of the outcomes they're looking to achieve and a pretty good idea of how they want to achieve those outcomes. So really what they're looking for is compliance. They just want people to follow their instructions and do what's required of them. Now, this is sometimes, as I say, referred to as an autocratic style of leadership. Not always fashionable, but there are times when a directive approach is appropriate and actually the best approach to use. Moving down the continuum, the next style of leadership is what we would call the persuasive style of leadership. Now, this is a style of leadership where the leader is, again, very clear on the outcomes that they're seeking to achieve, but they are also cognizant of the need to win the hearts and minds of their followers. So how that works is that they dictate the agenda, if you like, or they determine what the overarching goal is, but they spend an awful lot of time trying to win the hearts and minds of their team, trying to motivate them, trying to get them committed, really working at the people aspect. So it's a combination of being very task-centered, but beginning to bring in some people factors. The third style of leadership is what's known as the consultative style of leadership, and this is a style of leadership where basically you don't have all the answers as the leader. You say, look, I've got a fair idea of where I think we should come out with this stuff, but actually I really want to engage with you guys. I want to consult. I want to elicit your ideas, opinions, suggestions and thoughts about how we can best deliver this outcome. And I'm very much open to modifying and refining my approach depending upon the suggestions that you come up with. And then the last of the four styles is the democratic style of leadership. And that style of leadership is really about saying, look, you're a good team. You've got a good track record of success and achievement. You know what you're doing. You're skilled. I've got a lot of confidence in you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a remit and some terms of reference, and I'm going to ask you to think about the problem and come up with a strategy, a solution, an approach that you feel is credible. And I'm going to back you. If you can put a good case, you will have my support. So the key thing to recognize here is that good leadership is about being able to move up and down the continuum. It's about recognizing that there are certain situations where you do need to be directive. There are other situations where you need to be democratic, certain situations where you need to be persuasive, other situations where you need to be consultative. And the key is flexibility. The The key is recognizing when a particular leadership approach is likely to meet the requirements of the situation and meet the needs of the team. And a good leader, you will see, moving up and down the continuum, demonstrating this wide range of leadership behaviors throughout the day.